The reason people get sick is because they don't love themselves.
That's true.
You know, I also think it can make you get old faster. I've seen people 50 like, I'm telling you, somewhere, I'm going to tell you why, somewhere in their childhood, they were told that 50 is old. And so here they are. And if you love yourself, you can actually...
I do.
Huh?
I love
Well, stand up. Hey, come here. You do?
Yeah. I'm 75 years old.
You said it. 7'5". You missed that. 75 years old.
Right.
Which is... Now, how'd you get so healthy? Here.
Eating right.
Listen. I don't want to trivialize this because we got some heavyweights here who really are serious about it. Here's the thing. This is a mirror. I have never done this before. I love you. It makes me feel... Well, let me see you do it. Let me see you do it.
I love you.
Listen, no kidding. Guess who's here? Wait a minute. I mean, he's been on the bestseller list for 40 weeks. This is some book. Everybody's talking about it. And incidentally, when you're going to write your book. If you don't have a book, you're doing something wrong. But not all books last for 40 weeks, and his has. Bernie Siegel joins us, MD. You've read about him, and perhaps his book. He's a surgeon and author of the bestseller Love, Medicine, and Miracles. Joins, for the first time publicly, Louise Hay, who's the internationally known metaphysical teacher, counselor, and author of You Can Heal Your Life and Heal Your Body. You liked that opening, didn't you? We're making a little sense here, aren't we?
Right.
This is throwing strikes at what you're saying to us.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, but now let's translate this. How is it that so many of us don't like ourselves? Let's start there.
Nobody here is born unlovable. I asked thousands of people to raise a hand if they're born unlovable. Nobody does. So it's authority figures, what your parents do to you. And we're not saying you're a failure if you die someday or you didn't love enough, but what happens is the disease makes you look at your life. I mean, the line I'm always using, because somebody said it on the examining table, was, I'll make this marriage work if it kills me. Then I say to that woman, you have breast cancer, see, or AIDS, or multiple sclerosis, and she says, I'm going home and change my life. What I've learned is when you change your life, you may also get well, because it's physical. Love is physiologic.
I often get letters from doctors about patients I've referred. When a doctor reports amazing improvements in a patient's condition, he or she almost never mentions the person's beliefs and lifestyle. But when I inquire, I find the patient always has made some drastic change toward a more loving and accepting outlook.
Right.
Absolutely. You know, all babies are born loving themselves, and then somewhere along the line, we believe people who are frightened or angry, and we start to think that we're not good enough. And very often, we mistreat ourselves because we don't feel we're good enough. And this can contribute to disease.
Let me make a point. The other is that medicine has never studied success. Lovers, joggers, and vegetarians die. And let me warn you, if you're eating vegetables to not die, you're going to be furious someday.
Yeah. But don't be misunderstood, Doctor. You don't mean that's not a good idea. You mean that eventually...
If they enjoy living, do that. But see, medicine is failure-oriented because everybody dies, and doctors feel awful. We have never studied success. There are over 3,500 articles in the medical literature of people who got over incurable illnesses. Only one mentioned her life story, and if I may, it said her much-hated husband died, whereupon she got well. But when you talk to the others, they all tell you, I changed my existence. Yeah. And then I changed, my body changed because of it. It was a byproduct. I wanted to love before I died.
You say so many fascinating things in here, and I'm sorry only that we're not going to... it's essential that patients know they can express their anger to the doctor without hurting the doctor's feelings.
Right.
You play music during surgery, or you used to.
Right. Oh, I do. Every operating room in New Haven has it now.
Don't ever say anything to a comatose patient on the operating table that you don't want the patient to hear.
Asleep, under coma, and anesthesia, you hear. Your unconscious is powerful. That's why I do so much work with dreams and drawings.
Yeah. What's the question? Do you want to live to be 100? Tell me about that.
Well, look at it. I mean, I frequently carry with me cards that are given out by God that say on them, the holder of this card is guaranteed a life of 100 years and all the resources necessary. The back of the card says, Remember, you may outlive everyone you love if not used properly. So it can be a threat to live to be 100. Your kids may die before you do, your loved ones, your spouse.
Now,
it takes courage and determination.
I'll tell you, as you may know, and I'm proud to say, I was the host of an NBC special several years ago titled Donahue and Kids, in which we had young kids, not all children, teenagers, adolescents, and younger, who had been told they had cancer. They admitted feeling bad about their parents. I mean, what a thing I've given to put an arrow in the heart of my parent. And they visualized, they thought positively, they drew little drawings about the white cells and the red cells and torpedoes and submarines going to attack the bad cells. All but one, as far as I know, survives today. I also remember as a child, the biggest thing of the school year for me as a child in grammar school at Our Lady of Angels in Cleveland, we all went to Euclid Beach, which was in Cleveland was an amusement park. I never got sick the day before that trip. And if I was sick, I got better and rolled on the roller coaster.
See, what I
well, is this a germane, or am I talking
No,
too
it's
much?
very important. What I tell people is, well, you get a job. What are you given, sick days or health days? We learn to use illness, and I'm not trying to create guilt when I say, why do you need an illness? I want you to look at what it does in your life. So use health days. If you tell your children, you don't want to go to school, get up and say, I'm taking a health day.
You...
And write a note to the teacher. One a month.
I mean, to put it in perspective, our daughter Carolyn cut out a cartoon, left it on my desk. It said, it shows this man waking up saying, what a beautiful day, I feel great, I'll call in sick.
One of the most common precursors of cancer is... Close. A traumatic loss or a feeling of emptiness in one's life. When a salamander loses a limb, it grows a new one. In an analogous way, when a human being suffers an emotional loss that is not properly dealt with, the body often responds by developing a new growth. And the growth could be malignant.
Right.
Yes, yes. I like to think of an oyster takes a grain of sand and builds a pearl to protect itself. And we take a tumor or an emotional hurt, and we build tumors out of our emotional hurt.
Fills the emptiness.
Yes.
This from your book, Louise. You can heal your life.
Yes.
Abdominal cramps. Probable cause.
Yes.
Fear.
Yes.
Stopping the process.
Yes.
In other words,
our stomachs react enormously to fear, and we often grip or we stop the process of digestion. We try to stop the process of the experience, and it can reflect in our stomachs.
abscess. Probable cause. Fermenting thoughts over hurts, slights, and revenge.
Yes.
He didn't call the son. He never calls. And Valentine's Day, then it builds up, and you get a boil on your nose or what?
Let me make it practical. See, I'm a surgeon. I walked into the office one day as a lady sitting there with a big carbuncle, and my greeting to her was, why do you have trouble saying no without guilt? And she said, who called you from my family? That's and the other practical side that we were talking about is, it's like I'm the head to the heart, so to speak, is that scientifically we know there are chemicals in the body that simplified messenger molecules, all right? You have a certain feeling, you send messages. They can be healing or destructive. So certain emotions are going to focus on certain organs, and that's why you may react that way.
Accidents. You have an accident lately?
Anger.
Here's the probable cause. Inability to speak for the self, rebellion against authority, belief in violence. Some guy goes through a red light, hits me, it's my fault?
It can be. You can be attracting it. If somebody hits you, you're probably dealing with guilt. If you hit somebody else, you're dealing with anger.
See, here's where it gets, excuse me, I gotta have a little reinforcement here.
A person who really loves themselves wouldn't create.
Well,
That'll get me to the next break. Go ahead, Louise.
Right, but look at the laws you have to pass to try to get people to love themselves. Should we have to write a law that says wear a seatbelt? If you loved yourself, you put it on when you got in the car.
Very good point.
Yes.
See?
You know, remember
when... You know, I know that we filled out a form saying we're not candidates in the next 6 months before you go on television, but in 9 years I'm running for the presidency with 2 laws. You must love yourself and your true Social Security system. If you don't love yourself, you get fined. The true Social Security system will give you a number that puts you in a group that meets 2 hours every week for unconditional love and discipline. So you don't need, because the only groups people have now are not related to liking living. If you like living, do you know what group to join? No. If you have drug addiction, you do, alcoholism, multiple sclerosis, cancer, AIDS, and you name it, you got a group.
Psychologists are now learning that infants are far more perceptive than heretofore imagined. And you say, Dr. Siegel, and I wouldn't be surprised if cancer in early childhood was linked to messages of parental conflict or disapproval perceived even in the womb. I don't say this to create guilt, but to give us more insight into our participation in the healing process.
Right.
You believe the parent is the first hypnotic suggester to the child.
Right, absolutely.
Of course,
yeah.
absolutely.
I think you feel...
So if you tell Joe Namath he can't pick up the ball, he's a klutz, he won't even
You're
be able to
stupid,
hold
you'll
the
never
football
do
when he
it.
gets to high school.
That's why I think the criticism of you making me a failure by writing this book comes from the parents who said you were a failure, you'll never do anything right, you get cancer, you deserve it, you shouldn't even get better, and you deserve more problems.
Yeah. You had cancer, didn't you, Louise?
Yes, I did have cancer.
And so was this the beginning of your...
No, it wasn't the beginning, but by the time I had cancer, I realized that I had tools to work with. There were many things I could do, and I did a lot of things. First, I went into panic, like anyone would. But then I did a good nutritional program. I did visualizations. I did meditation. I worked with a good therapist who helped me release a lot of the old garbage from the past.
I'll tell you what scares me a lot about it. This really, it's not, I shouldn't say scare. Give myself away. Parental influence is
Powerful.
tremendous.
Even in the womb. We're learning more and more about what parents can do in the womb.
I've had very, very respected psychiatrists on our program say, for example, a Jewish woman pregnant in the 40s in Germany.
Right.
That kid is gonna feel
That's
it.
right. But
And,
see,
and
that,
the legacy may live
Yeah.
forever, and can you unload this, or...
that child can turn out to be a Hitler because of what his parents do to him. You read Alice Miller's work. And I think the greatest disease our society has today is unloved children.
You must remember, Phil, though, you can learn to love yourself.
Yeah.
If your parents didn't do it, it doesn't mean you're stuck. You can learn to love yourself, and that's what I teach people.
See, God has a reset button. It's called pain and suffering. You learn you're mortal, then you say, I don't accept this anymore, and I will not pass this pain on, and your life changes.
You also say if you get some significant disease, ask yourself, what condition were you in 2 years ago?
Yeah, because...
At the onset of it...
Yeah, to look at your life, again, to empower people, see? If you had your parents die, moved to a new city, you know, things happen to you, look at it. Why? Identical twins don't get sick the same day. So if you take these people with the same genes and you watch when one gets sick, year of despair, something happens, you're vulnerable. And those are the issues to look at.
I'd like to ask Dr. Siegel, given the fact that I'm a pathological optimist as well, and given the fact that this approach to dealing with physical and emotional problems is not taught in medical schools and graduate schools of psychology, what were the major events in either your personal or professional life that, the big events that led you towards this approach?
I'd say the same thing I just mentioned. I was unhappy with what medical school turned me into. And I want to make one point. Medical students do not go to medical school to become villains. I know doctors kill people with their words, but there are a lot of nice doctors out there too. But the training is terrible. We are not taught how to communicate and how to share and how to deal with the pain of that profession.
You moved your desk up against the wall, and you now sit full body face to the...
Because I'm mortal. I want to be with you. And the thing I would share with every nurse and doctor watching this is when you're having an awful day, go to your sickest patient. Say, I'm having an awful day. They'll give you a hug. So what I learned is you can heal me.
Don't say anything you wouldn't say when the patient is awake. That's interesting. I believe that.
Don't think anything that you don't want to have happen in your life. That's even more important.
Yeah. So if the clam is laying there and the anesthesia is working, you don't want to say, well, this guy's getting old.
Yeah, or
it'll get in there, huh?
The worst case I've ever seen, if they leave here, it'll be feet first. And then watch what happens in the recovery room. I operate on people because they choose it as their way of getting well, and they can literally wake up comfortable and give me a hug in the recovery room.
Have you changed the heartbeat of a patient under anesthesia?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How do you do that?
How did you learn about that?
I'm, I just love myself, and I'm a brilliant man.
The anesthesiologists love to challenge me. I mean, 8 years ago, they called me crazy. Last year, you speak at grand rounds. But at the end of a case, this man's heart became very irregular. He was still anesthetized. The anesthesiologist ran off the EKG, tore it off, said, here, you fix it. And what I did, whisper in his ear, was, you're on a swing, nice and steady rhythm, up and back. Everything's even and smooth, and the cardiogram went back to normal.
Typical cancer patient is a male who suffered from lack of love from parents. Do you believe that?
Yes. Married men live 20% longer with cancer. Women with the same diagnosis live longer. Touch a child, this is the science of it, touch a newborn premature infant in the newborn special care unit. 15 minutes, 3 times a day, they gain weight 47% faster than a control group. See, we're talking about science. You're changing the internal hormones.
So if you're a parent, you gotta... You're just the best little baby weave. You just
love yourself,
I love
and
you
it'll
so
be
much.
easy to love
You're
your
going to
child.
be the king of England or whatever you
Phil,
want to be.
if the parent will love themselves, it's easy to love the
Then
child.
it doesn't sound patronizing or phony.
No, but it has to start with you. You can't love
You can't share it if you don't have it.
Right.
Children are always mimics of the parent, and if the parent loves themselves, then you don't have to teach the child anything. It will just automatically do that.
Right. Are there meetings? I mean, how do you do this?
There are books, there are tapes, there are meetings, there are workshops all over the planet these days. People are beginning to learn how to use their mind to improve the quality of their life. And that's what we all want to do.
I can give you 5 quick steps. One is keep a journal of your feelings every day. Join a group that meets every week. Live an hour at a time. Meditate, pray, listen to music 4 to 6 times a day, and sit in front of a mirror naked 15 minutes twice a day. Okay, you see...
You serious?
I'm serious, because...
Love your body.
Put yourself together again.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a surgeon. See, they said, operate. I'm not going to sit in front of that mirror.
Are you there, caller? I'm glad you waited. Go ahead.
Yes, Phil, I agree with the doctor. I moved away from home 2 years ago and was away for 4 years and developed Graves' disease, which is hypothyroidism, and ulcers. In the time since then, I've moved back home with my mother and have had no problems with ulcers, no medication, no hypothyroidism, and I'm very happy being at home near my family.
Yes, you feel safe there. You probably did not feel safe when you were out in the world.
That's right, exactly, and there was a lot of stress.
Okay.
So now that I'm back home, everything is fine.
You have to learn, though, to take care of yourself, because what happens when your parents leave? Then what are you going to do?
You know, I can't help but make this point just one more time. We seem to be going out of our way as a culture to do the opposite of what you are calling for. Right. We have how many... certainly, divorce has left a house that really doesn't have any noise in it for lots of kids. This is not to impose guilt on anybody. We have a school system. You know, if you're I was a slow reader. I think they called us the Bluebirds. I was, you know, right up front in front of the nun, you know, because, you know, maybe osmosis, little Philly will. I have been a Bluebird for my entire life. I have not changed that. I will finish the book, but I'll bet you finish it before I do. LD and grades and the SATs, and you're a 350 and I'm a 250, and you're better than I am. It says so on this page.
But they have nothing to do with your self-worth.
But it does. The pressure of the culture tells me that I am inferior.
The outside does, but what you have to learn is the moment you were conceived, you had a blueprint. How are you the best Phil Donahue? You see, not Albert Einstein, but how are you the best Phil Donahue? And that's what everybody here has to answer. If you don't listen to your own blueprint, that's where emotional or physical illness occurs.
And you step forward to say
that on your path.
That these books and other are efforts to help us do that.
Yeah. Because again, when you learn you're mortal, everybody sits here saying, I know everybody dies, but I'm an exception. So someday my day will come. But when somebody says to you, you have 6 months to live, you say, wow, tomorrow will be my day.
Yeah. I assume you feel humor is very important.
Absolutely. Woody Allen is a big part of our workshops. And I mean that. He knows what life is about. If I may quote one, he said, life is full of miserableness, loneliness, unhappiness, and suffering, and it's all over much too quickly. And you realize that it's the pain that you have to deal with and use.
And you also are probably foursquare in favor of religion.
Spirituality. Religion doesn't always help.
Spirituality is your connection with your higher power. Religion sometimes is an organized business, and that's very different. Many people can get their spirituality through their religion.
We're in New York City with Bernie Siegel, MD, and Louise Hay, and we'll be back in just a minute. Hi, thanks for waiting. Go ahead.
For a major illness, this is hogwash because a person's going to...
For a major illness, what?
This is hogwash.
Tell me.
A person's going to die anyway. They can't heal themselves.
Well, that's a belief system, and if you choose to believe it, it'll be true for you.
I have a simple answer. I will be happy to bet her $10,000 that I can give her a pathology report, and she has 6 months plus or minus the day that man died on. If she's willing to put up $10,000 against mine, tell me what day somebody died from their pathology report. Anytime you want, I'll read you the pathology report.
What would be the point? I don't understand your point.
Because she can't say when somebody dies from a pathology report. How can she say it's hogwash? I operate on people. I read a pathology report. You don't know what day they're going to die. Tests do not determine the future for an individual.
Yeah. Are you, hang on, caller, you still there?
Yes, sir.
You can see your TV.
Yes.
Julie Cavadini, kindly stand. Says here you're a cancer patient.
That's
Are you
right.
at this moment as we speak?
Yes, I am.
Tell
I've
us.
had leukemia for 3 years. 2 years ago, I was told that I had 2 weeks to live. I'm still here, and that's not the most startling thing. I've learned to love myself, and that's why I can do it.
Yeah, and how'd you do that?
With meditation,
Well, tell me-
visualization, all of these techniques.
What were you before and after? Give me that stuff. you know.
I felt very sad. I didn't feel like I was doing anything worthwhile with my life. I felt stuck. Now I feel
Now, wait a
happy.
minute. You felt this way, and the doctor says, guess what? You got this?
It didn't come as such a surprise.
You
No.
kind of suspected?
Well, I didn't suspect. I was shocked, of course, but then I said, well, look at how I've been feeling. Look at how I've been living.
Meaning living unhappily, so to
Yes,
speak.
yes, not taking care of myself, not knowing how to say
The
no,
world's a crock. You can't do anything about it, so what does it matter, etc.
etc. That's right.
And then you change now, and you...
I look forward to every moment of my life.
really? Bruce. All right, Brother Bruce. Bruce Fishkin, you likewise are a cancer patient.
Yes.
Can you give us just briefly, did somebody put an X-ray on the wall, or when did you get the arrow in the heart?
He walked in, the doctor said, you don't have a heart problem, which is what I went in for, I thought, the night before, and he said, you have lymphoma. I said, what's that? He said, that's cancer of the lymph system. That was January of '86, and I went to my doctor, and he sent me to an oncologist, spent a year in chemotherapy. All the conventional approaches failed. They told me I had relatively short time. In so many words, they didn't come out and say that. A friend pointed me in the direction of Bernie Siegel and his book and his group. I've been in there for a year, every Thursday, for 2 hours. I've learned to be more accepting, more giving and less taking.
Let me understand this. You know you're going to die, like all of us.
Yeah.
And so now you're focused on living. Is that part of this?
Very much a part of it. The focus is on living. I also have everything in order when I do die. So I have an advantage over some people that don't.
You're not scared?
No. No, I thought I would be,
Right.
but that's the surprise.
And you love yourself?
Well, I like myself a hell of a lot more than I used to.
Then you're coming along. And who knows, once you get to know yourself better, who knows the possibility?
Right, I could get married again, but to myself.
But you really did feel schlumpy at the time of this diagnosis and before. Is that so, emotionally speaking?
In tracing back my life, I knew exactly what happened, and it was a severe loss of one of my parents, a severe loss of my business, and that traced back to about 2 years preceding my diagnosis.
Dr. Siegel has an interesting description of depression in this book. The feeling that life's never... You probably didn't want to work, didn't want to play, didn't want to sing.
That's right.
Did you get in the bottle, just curiously?
No. My orientation was not that. It was suicidal thoughts, and And in effect, I committed suicide by getting cancer.
That's how you see it, is it?
Phil, one of the things, when you mentioned spiritual, I thought of is afflictions heal and adversity opens you to a new reality. And so you think of suicide until somebody says you could be dead, and then the affliction changes.
That was it. I thought it was a game in a sense until somebody said, well, okay, fine, now you can have your wish, in effect. And I said, I don't want it. So now I'm living every day.
Well, we do thank you, Bruce. And I don't want to be dismissing you, but you look great. John Kelly. You are an AIDS patient, John, and you run the Healing Circle in Boston. Now, here's where it must get tricky. Are you here to tell us that you're at peace with your own condition, that you've... Well, let's just make the point. First of all, I assume you had to be either enraged or depressed, or what happens when you get this diagnosis?
Well, you know, it's a death sentence. According to the media, according to all the people that I knew, you know, you're going to die. My regular doctor became very stiff. I actually tried to hug him before I even knew I was supposed to do that, and he just kind of, he was not close, and pushed me to a specialist. And I got on what it was like a trail. You know, you get up, you go, you have this blood work, they say they're going to do this, they say they're going to do that. But it didn't seem like anybody really cared about me. And it wasn't until I got a videotape of a Louise Hay meeting that I realized that maybe it was because I didn't care about me. You know, that I was only going to the places that reinforced the idea that I didn't deserve to live.
Right. It's easy to buy this homophobic line. You got it, you deserve it, God gave it to you, that's what you get for misbehavior. I assume, however enlightened may be the AIDS victim, there's got to be that, oh my God, are these people right?
Well, you know, I think probably there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions. You can turn a disease into anything.
Right.
You can turn it into a terrible wrath from God, or you can turn it into the most beautiful experience of your life. And I will tell you something, that I have not been hospitalized from AIDS. I have not had an opportunistic infection.
Really?
I feel far better now than I did for the 2 years prior to the diagnosis. And furthermore, AIDS has given me some gifts that have made the last year and a half almost more precious than the 33 years before that. And that's how I feel.
I hear that all the time.
One thing that I've done is make it a regular part of my history to say to people, please describe your illness. Some people are as courageous as he is and say, I have a gift and a challenge.
Now, are you AIDS-related complex, or are you, have you...
No, AIDS. I had a lesion.
And do you have, are you on AZT?
No. I'm not on anything.
And the reason you're able to stand up and say, I feel good about myself is what, even in this condition, is what? I assume one thing, you like yourself better than you ever have before, so?
I love myself. You know,
You didn't
I'm worth it. I'm worth it. You know, I wasn't put on this earth. I mean, I'm not junk. I'm not flotsam. I'm not something that deserves a car accident or a serious illness.
Right.
You know, I deserve the space that I stand in.
And you don't have a little temptation, why me? You don't have that?
Well, I suppose I could sit there and say,
You do
why
that,
me?
you
But
go
why should I
beyond
get why should I get the honor? Sometimes I think. You know, I never would have been doing what I'm doing today if it hadn't been for the illness.
You're an irreplaceable human being, unique, and in a way,
Perfect.
As we all are.
Everybody's perfectly imperfect. I mean, you're perfect
Right now.
who you are, and we all have our imperfections as human beings. But you still continue to love yourself through all those. And that's the beautiful part. And if I may, scientifically, what he's doing is what we will be treating AIDS and probably cancer with in 5 or 10 years. The chemicals in his body, the neuropeptides, if you take those and put them into somebody, you can make whatever white count you want. It's scientific what's happening inside of him.
I do have to break here in this audience once in here, but how often do you go, is it a healing circle? Is that what you call it?
He runs it.
Yeah, but once or 3 times. We have 3 in Boston now, so we can go to.
And so how often do you go?
I go once or twice a week, yeah.
And you sit down, and you and others in similar what shall we say?
Lots of people without AIDS, people with no physical illness, and all we simply do is we sit there and try to change our attitudes about ourselves. We ask the self-hate to step outside until we're finished with the meeting. You know.
Well, I thank you very much, John. This
Phil,
is maybe the... And we'll be back in just a moment. Yes.
Being that this approach gives so much control and power back to the individual, what kind of reception have you gotten from the established medical community?
Well, it's getting better. The word patient means submissive, and that's something you have to realize. We've been invited to a lot of medical school graduations. A lot of doctors are beginning to write because they can't resist reading the book now. I mean, people are after them to do it. So a lot of sharing is going on now.
Yes.
Louise, I just
Yes.
want to say that your book has helped me tremendously heal your body, and
It's what you've done with the book that's
Right.
helped you enormously.
right. And
So congratulate yourself.
I
Give
just want to
yourself
ask
credit.
Bernie Siegel. I'm a massage therapist in Connecticut, and your work through this has helped us to really make it a more acceptable alternative for healing. And I also do Reiki healing. If you could talk a little bit about that.
Reiki healing is wonderful. It's a form of laying on of hands, of channeling energy. And you know, even with yourself, if you hurt your body, the first thing you do is you touch it because it makes it feel better. And when you can touch another person, it's very helpful.
I just want to say that I think that what you're saying is wonderful. I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I started off, when I first started teaching, 1 month on self-identification and feeling good about yourself. I now do it all year long because I can't believe how many kids come in and don't feel good about themselves. And I think it's wonderful.
When I teach school, several things that help. One is look at the drawings your children do of their own self-esteem and what's going on at home. The other is, in high school and junior high school, I often give out assignments saying, write yourself a suicide note and a love note. The suicide note piles that high, and if you say to the kids, you want to go home and say, I hate you or I love you, more raise their hand for I hate you, because it's easier to say at home than I love you.
Yes.
I love myself. I was loved as a child, and I have a beautiful daughter who I love.
Really? Well, maybe you should come back for tomorrow's show then.
But if I had AIDS or cancer, I would.
You don't.
I'd feel bad.
You don't, though, do you?
Well,
but he's trying to at least understand the academic nature of his question. How do you get past?
I mean, lovers die. See, the point is, the man who was a vegetarian for 18 years was furious at a workshop because he got leukemia. But maybe he would have been dead 10 years ago if he hadn't eaten vegetables and loved himself. There's one way to be immortal. I will tell everybody here how to do it. Love. Read Saroyan's The Human Comedy. Love is immortal, makes all things immortal. Read Thornton Wilder, The Bridge of San Luis Rey. There's a land of the living and the land of the dead, and the bridge is love, the only survival, the only meaning. You want to live forever, love somebody. There is no other way.
Are you there, caller? Hi.
Hi, Phil. First of all, I wanted to say to these people that it's wonderful that this book is working for them. But I want to know, my brother died 6 months ago of leukemia. And before he died, I bought him Dr. Siegel's book, and he really loved it. It was great, and he kept thinking positive. He thought he was going to be okay. He had all the love in the world from the family, from all his friends, all the support. He had everything going for him. He knew what he wanted from life, but he didn't make it, and he never finished the book. So I want to know, why doesn't it work for everybody?
You know, it's part of what we've shared. The only thing that works for everybody is love. Then a part of her brother stays behind. And I have to ask her, in a sense, what she will do with this pain to help others.
Right.
But you can't live forever.
You better get this. You are not claiming to be Billy Sunday here.
See, what I don't want is the doctor walking in saying, you got 6 months to live. I know a lady who died in a day because the doctor said to the medical students, classical case of TS, which means tricuspid stenosis. She thought it meant terminal situation, died in a day. And she shouldn't have.
Right.
And that's what, see, that's the other side of this coin. Right. I don't like false no hope.
Right. Did your brother have maybe an oxymoron, as we say, a peaceful death?
Well, yeah, pretty much, because we didn't want him to suffer any more than he already had, so we just let him die peacefully.
You know,
so there may be then at least something, he may have taken something positive and peaceful as a result of his exposure to the... You're not claiming to...
No, I think that the book really helped him, even though he never finished it. Because he kept telling me every day how much he loved it and how he even wanted to meet Dr. Siegel when he was going to get out of the hospital.
See, I've known people who have died reading my book, but what's happened is they've improved the quality of their life while they were here. What is the point of living longer if your life is a mess?
See, the message is we are trying to help you heal your life. The byproduct is physical. The goal isn't curing every illness. I can't. Read a book 50 years ago, The Horse and Buggy Doctor. First sentence, God save us from diphtheria. Now we're done with, we have AIDS. 50 years from now, we'll have a disease with 5 capital letters that everybody will be worried about. You can't cure everything.
Yeah. What Phil, I just want you want to say something to her. These guests feel that you have to do something with this pain. Do I have this?
If she's loved her brother, she's done what she can, and now she has to go on.
How can she help someone else in the same situation?
Start a group for families who have lost children.
I run a group, a support group for people with AIDS in Los Angeles, California. We have over 600 people every week. And what we do is everything we can to improve the quality of the life. And we have people living longer and longer and longer all the time. We work on love, we work on forgiveness, we work on dissolving resentment.
You have, if we all programmed our children this way, meaning positively, as you say your mother did to you, we'd be creating survivors. As parents, we are, in a sense, our children's first hypnotists, and we can give them positive post-hypnotic suggestions. You have our condolences. I know that that's very, very empty and not going to help you very much. It's obvious that you love your brother, and I hope you and I can agree that his memory is not honored by your living in pain that is not addressed.
The other side of the coin is the person with the illness is the healer. There's a book that somebody wrote, and the sentence was, few better, if she can say about her brother, few better will come after, and then you go on living. She has to take her brother's strength and go on living.
It to her own.
He worked with his leukemia. He said, the book has helped. I want to love and I want to live. She has to take her cancer and go on now.
And ensure that she takes advantage of this gift that her brother gave her.
He gave her.
And we'll be back, you know. That's all right. Here are, we have, there were about 7 patients here that we've asked to come in. Gail, would you kindly stand? Gail Levine, you are an ulcer patient, and this worked for you?
Yeah, very much so, because I'm a product of a dysfunctional family. My father was alcoholic, and we lived in a great deal of fear.
Right.
But,
do you think that's the cause of your ulcer?
Oh, sure.
You know, it's the tension of the thing and it all in the tummy.
And even though he died 15 years ago, I still carry the fear with me. About 1.5 years ago, I developed an ulcer, and after medical intervention, it didn't work very well. Right. I went through another doctor, and we did natural medicine, and did Louise's tape. That was my homework every night, listen to Louise.
Really?
And nutrition. And within 4 months, the pain was gone.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean you have any legacy of it at all?
Well, once in a while, it kind of kicks you in the ribs saying, you remember me?
When you stress yourself out.
That's right.
When you what?
When you stress yourself out.
Uh-huh.
Like
and
now.
This is no picnic, is it, Stenny? How'd you like to be here every day? Talk about ulcer.
Right.
You like yourself more than you have and so on, huh?
Oh,
you're better emotionally.
Wonderful. And my daughter's enjoying our life together a lot
It's like having a new mama for her, then, is it?
Yeah, calm.
Well, I thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
You're seated next to Munir Rashid. Eczema, is it?
Yeah, I was, by the time I was 6 months old, they would tie up my hands and my feet to the
So you wouldn't scratch to blood, to bleeding, yeah.
And I had suicidal fantasies and depression through all of my childhood. I saw MDs.
Excuse me, but lovingly and without meaning to, I mean, somebody put clamps on you very early in your life.
I would ask them to, because the pain was so bad. And I had a lot of suicidal fantasies and depression. And I saw MDs, they gave me cortisone, and that was all they said they could do. Right. After 20 years, I found Marsh Wolf, acupuncturist and dietitian, started working on my diet, acupuncture.
Right.
She played Louise's tapes while I was getting acupuncture.
Right.
I found them so inspiring, enlightening. The idea, one of the statements, I am forgiving, makes me free for giving.
Free for giving, I get it.
Really opened me up. And that I started getting involved with Louise's work. Yeah. And between Louise and diet and acupuncture, what 20 years of MDs couldn't do, I could do in like 4 months.
Now, eczema is an external skin scabbiness, dryness, scratching, itchy.
It's actually...
It's gone?
It's an immune system problem.
Is it gone?
It's basically gone. It comes back a little bit when I get stressed or I don't follow diet or I stop believing. I'm just starting a new company now.
Really?
And I have doubts and fears.
Really?
And it's come back a little bit. So now I'm working with the ideas, believing that I'm worthy. I couldn't finish college because I didn't think I deserved it. I was going to Ivy League school. I was bright enough to go through all the motions. My first year in school, I was told I was so suicidal I didn't even know it.
You had like panic attack when you got there?
Yeah, I was overwhelmed.
I see.
But it was an ongoing thing. I learned to take...
You can get on top of it now.
I learned to love myself, to nurture myself.
Right.
And it took me an extra year, and after Louise's work, I learned to believe in myself, and I allowed myself to graduate. I always had the brains, but I didn't have the self-love to let me succeed. And that's the thing I think is really important here that some people might miss, is this is not techniques that are valuable when you're about to die. This is something that makes your life good now, and will keep you healthy now, keep you happy now, and all the way through your life, so you don't have to be one of those random people who gets cancer for some reason.
I get it, and I thank you, Meneer. Samuel Kirshner. Samuel Kirshner runs the Healing Circle in New York for AIDS patients.
Right.
Are you one?
No, I'm not a patient. I'm just working on patients. The Healing Circle in New York started as a follow-up of the teachings of Louise Hay, and is giving permission to many people to come out and share their life story and what they're going through, and is giving immense support to people.
We believe you.
And to really let people come out of their isolation and gain support from this work.
It's really the only way, isn't it? It's pretty hard to be emotionally... it seems we're wasting so much of our capacity for life if we're isolated.
Trying to shield ourselves from that which we want the most, which is to love and share ourselves.
Samuel, I thank you, and you'll forgive me for this fast run through here, but with time... Dorothy Sapinski, you're a periodic carcinoma patient, it says here.
Well, I've had malignant carcinoma in my head and neck over a period of 16 years.
Really?
And it's been a very difficult one to get rid of. And I just have had radiation as well as surgery, and one of my biggest fears was having to deal with the thought that any more surgery could be very disfiguring and also impairing. And I decided I had to go with something else internal to bring me out of it. And eventually I was introduced to Dr. Marshall Wolf, who helped me with macrobiotic nutrition program.
Right.
And that helped me tremendously, mentally as well as physically. And she eventually introduced me to Louise Hay's healing tapes.
Right.
And one day, I just was in deepest despair over my present cancer condition, and I decided to run out, get one of Louise's tapes, and I listened to it over and over, day after day, and it helped to pull me right up out of my mental prison and bring me right up into a total healing state of mind and brought me back to the future.
Well, good for you. When was your last surgery? I don't have much time.
1974.
You haven't had surgery since 1974?
That's right.
And so everything's in remission and you feel good about yourself, and you look in the mirror every day and you say...
I love myself.
And we'll be back in just a moment. The Hay House, as in Louise Hay, is at Post Office Box 2212, Santa Monica. The zip is 90406. You see the phone number. Next slide. Bernie Siegel's The Exceptional Cancer Patients is at 203-865-8392. Yes, I saw somebody up here. Who was it? Yes.
We'd just like to say that you've caused a lot of despair and lack of self-love because you've neglected our corner in this whole...
Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why do I have to accept responsibility for her emotional well-being?
You don't. No, that's why I say live an hour at a time. She wouldn't accept those feelings or would have done something about them.
See, here's a woman who loves herself. She could care less whether I come up here. Who else while I'm in this neighborhood? Yeah.
I think the love of a father for an infant baby is very important, as well as the mother.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I definitely believe in the power of love. We had friends who had a 2-year-old who was terminal, and in the last week before she finally died, the baby had died 4 times, and when the parents hugged her, she came back to life 4 times.
I may say, don't stop praying for your loved ones, too. There are 3 studies showing the effect of prayer on survival.
Right. What is this? What is affirmation?
Affirmations are every statement you ever make, everything you say. But when you do an affirmation, it means you make a positive statement to create something you want in your life. I am creating good health.
If someone is terminally ill and they're considering suicide, how do you motivate them to have positive thinking?
You have to love them and hope they find self-love.
Love, Medicine, and Miracles is Bernie Siegel, MD's contribution to this understanding of helping yourself love yourself because it'll make you healthier. Love, Medicine, and Miracles. Louise Hay's book is titled, You Can Heal Your Life. Hi.
Hi. I think what you're doing is wonderful, but I'm curious as to whether you believe that all illness comes from this psychological.
Yeah. You still believe in, if you have a broken bone, you're going to an orthopedic person, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I haven't stopped being a surgeon is what I keep reminding people. So it is a part. That's why I say look at identical twins. When you get sick is a way of empowering yourself. Don't separate your life from your disease. Your mind and body are a unit.